All right, what's going on, everybody? Sorry for the slight hiatus this week. Was figuring out some technical difficulties. I won't bog you down with the details, but we're back and we are reacting to Week 3 Sunday football. Couple really good games today, couple big time shockers, Sunday night thriller. What is new with the Chiefs? We're going to break down and touch on a few things that we found important/intriguing in today's games. Also, we're going to touch briefly on the Patriots and Jets since we did not do a reaction to that on Thursday night. So before we get into it, like, subscribe, comment down below how you feel, if you agree, disagree, and just some takes that you have as well. Let's jump on in. We're going to start with the Jets and Pats. A couple weeks ago, I was talking to my dad, and I was worried. I was looking at the matchup. Week 3, Patriots, Jets, Thursday Night Football. I was slightly worried that we were going to get prime Aaron Rodgers. First week he's coming off of his Achilles injury. Hasn't really played with the Jets at all. Obviously, he's going to be a little bit rusty. Week 2, you're still breaking off some of that pressure to get the first win is there, so you might play a little tighter. And I was feeling like Week 3 is going to set up to just see him at his relatively full power. And that's exactly what happened. Aaron Rodgers looked, I wouldn't say prime Aaron Rodgers because that's a whole nother level of quarterback play, but he looked damn good. Super efficient, carving up the Patriots. And, you got to give all the credit to him and the Jets. They came out ready to play. And the biggest thing that I was looking for the Patriots this year in the first 2 games was, does Gerard Mayo have the guys ready to go come game time? In the first 2 weeks, even though we lost the second week in overtime, there was no question that the Patriots were ready to play in those games. And on this Week 3 Thursday night game, Patriots just look slow. And I feel like some of it may have to do with they play such a physical brand of football the first 2 weeks that, maybe they were a little bit banged up and slow because that's how they looked on the field. Also, losing Jawan Bentley, your QB of the defense for the past few years, to torn pec out for the season, which sucks. Prayers out to him. How much does that have an effect? It looked like Aaron Rodgers saw something on film the previous 2 weeks that he was just going to exploit. And there were some plays during the game, the little quick screens out to his receiver when the play was obviously a run. He would just dish it out due to off coverage by the corners and stuff like that. You can't preach enough about how important elite level quarterback play, not just physically, but also mentally, is for a team. You pick up so many first downs like that. So hats off to the Jets. They played their ass off. And although the score was only 24-3, it felt like 48-3. Was not a good showing by the Patriots. Biggest issue for the Patriots is obviously their offensive line play. I don't think Jacoby Myers had more than 2 seconds to throw the ball almost at any point tonight. As much as you want them to take a receiver to help out Drake May, later this year, obviously next year, because that's when the draft pick would be, you have to snatch up these good offensive linemen while they're here. I feel like the pipeline for good offensive tackles and interior linemen is just getting shallower and shallower due to the glamour of the position. There's not much. These players nowadays see that the money is in the defensive end, the wide receiver, obviously the quarterback. There's not a lot of offensive linemen that are going to be coming up in the draft in the future years that are going to be can't miss prospects, i.e. Joe Alt. And we'll touch on him later. So, speaking of Drake May for a quick minute, the quarterback controversy could be out there because Boston media loves to do that. Gerard Mayo came out and said that Jacoby Brissett is obviously the starter for the foreseeable future. And I think that's the way it needs to be. You throw Drake May in, you get him some game reps. Obviously, the Jets' defense did not slow down during that time. And, you saw some things that you really like. The offensive line still hampered him, but he made a couple really nice throws. He made a great run on 4th down to pick up 12 on 4th and 8. He made a very nice pass over the middle, almost off his back foot, just slung it over the middle, got there in a quick hurry. So there's some things that you saw, you're like, all right, this guy's got the potential, but they need to protect him. And he's not going to learn anything valuable playing behind a shoddy offensive line this year. So sit him, let him develop, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see that to become more of a trend in the near future. Moving on to the Sunday games. Giants and Browns. And the main thing I took from this game is the same thing I took from the last 2 games for the Giants. Malik Neighbors is for real. This guy is, he's a freak athletically, but he just has the potential to be your go-to number 1 receiver. You've already seen it over the first 3 weeks, and that's why he was drafted so high. Once they can find a quarterback to match with him, that's going to be a top-tier 1-2 combination with the quarterback and Malik Neighbors. He is a beast, and Giants fans, in a dull season that is to be, you got to have some hope to grasp on and some excitement to watch, and Malik Neighbors seems to be that guy. Also, if Brian Daboll ends up being let go as their head coach, assuming they have a top 3 pick, which they probably will, you got to think that this Giants team is kind of an exciting destination for a potential head coach. They've got very good defensive stars with Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, who you traded for this offseason, Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy in the middle. And then you got a young corner, Deonte Banks. You just drafted Andrew Phillips. And on offense, you've got a stalwart left tackle in Andrew Thomas. And obviously now Malik Neighbors. There's a lot of pieces on this Giants team that look intriguing to build off of. If they could get a quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if they become kind of a want-to-go-to spot for head coach candidates. Last thing for this game, sorry Browns fans, but you guys are screwed. I do not know what the future of your franchise is. You owe Deshaun Watson so much money over the next few years. And the level of play is not sustaining the amount of money that he's getting paid. And I don't want to sound like a broken record for the rest of this season, but it's the main issue. Last year your defense played lights out. And we saw this with the Patriots on Thursday night. When your team has such shoddy quarterback play, it's so tough for a defense to match the same intensity week in and week out. They're going to have games where they have hiccups. You're not going to win consistently if you don't have good quarterback play, even if you have a great defense and great surrounding pieces. It's just too important of a position. So I really don't know where you go from here. You're about to run into some really big cap issues, but you do have a solid coach and you have solid pieces on the team. But Amari Cooper is going to be up for an extension. Nick Chubb is going to be up for an extension. You're going to have to pay some of your young defensive players. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, he's got to get paid. So, Browns fans, I feel for you. Hopefully you can make something out of this season, but the future does look quite bleak. Moving on, we got the Bears and the Colts. Colts take this one. Pretty much 2 rookie QBs playing in this game, and it looked like it. Obviously Caleb Williams, first overall pick. He's going to have some hiccups throughout the season. And that's to be expected with a young guy, even though he has a better situation than pretty much every number one overall pick ever. But also Anthony Richardson only started a handful of games last year, was touted to be the most physically gifted athlete in the draft last year, but also one of the more inexperienced guys. And he didn't really play much his rookie season. And you're starting to see kind of those rookie speed bumps that you would expect, even though he is in his second year, due to the lack of playing time. The physical gifts are very much there for Anthony Richardson, but you got to see him start to hit some of those layups, because in the NFL, athleticism is great, but you can't always rely on it due to the amount of athleticism at every level of NFL defenses and the amount of scheme that goes in with some of these coaches. So I wonder if Shaden Steichen is going to start to kind of layer in some of these easier plays, kind of maybe get him in rhythm, use his athleticism and the traits that were so touted in his evaluation to kind of help ease his progression along. With Caleb Williams, I wouldn't be worried because it's only his third start. But there are some plays that really do kind of make you tighten up a little bit, where you shouldn't be missing guys that are that wide open. He had a couple deep misses over the past couple weeks where it's like, man, that guy is wide open and he's just not hitting them. You wonder how comfortable he is right now. And obviously, a tremendous level of stress right now. I don't think we've had a first overall pick since Andrew Luck that was supposed to turn a franchise around as much as Caleb Williams, going to a franchise that has never had good, sustainable quarterback play. Also, for the Bears, I feel like DJ Moore, as gifted as he is, there seems to be some sort of issue he has with Caleb Williams. I'm obviously not in the locker room, so I don't know what's going on. This is speculation, but you can tell by body language that he is frustrated as hell out there. And when you got a rookie QB that is young and has already a tremendous amount of pressure on him, you got to have your veteran guys, especially the ones that make his job easier, showing full support, even through the frustrating times. And I could understand why DJ Moore would be frustrated. Feels like he's open and not getting the ball. But you got to put that aside and let your veteran presence take over in those areas. So hopefully they, solve that if it is an issue. And maybe you heard that, maybe you didn't. So moving forward with the Colts, Laiatu Latu gets his first sack of his young, potentially bright NFL career. Their first-round draft pick, edge rusher out of UCLA. Good to see him get his first sack. Jonathan Taylor has another big game. Got to feed him the ball way more. He's a beast. He was a leading rusher a couple years ago, and we kind of forgot about him because of injuries, but he is not letting you forget about him right now. Moving on, Texans and Vikings. Vikings stomp the Texans. El Toro, they get Olayed. Man, these Vikings are for real. I got a buddy, his name's Sonny, and he is happy right now. This Viking team, it looks incredible. Kevin O'Connell, another slept-on head coach. Man, what he can do for the quarterback position, you can't really put in words. Sam Darnold, as we know, super talented quarterback, third overall pick to the Jets years back, hasn't been in a situation that really set him up for success. He goes to the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who we really haven't seen this year. Great offensive line, solid running game, and a great play caller in Kevin O'Connell. And Sam Darnold's looking like that first-round pick that we thought he would be. And going into the season, it was a big question on everybody's mind. Was he going to perform at the level that we thought he would be when he came out? And he's looking like every bit of that through 3 weeks. And you wonder, with how raw J.J. McCarthy is, if Sam Darnold balls out, do they extend him? Because if you're getting solid quarterback play out of him, they're so hit and miss. Can you take the chance to move on from him? That'll be an exciting development to see throughout the season. Texans, I'm not worried about it. You laid an egg. This is a legit team that you played against. Probably weren't expecting it. And you got worked. You know, this is one of those games where you watch the tape, then you crumble it up and you throw it out. You don't forget it happened, but you got to move on. You know, Brian Flores, if you're a Vikings fan, you feel really good about his future being your defensive coordinator, because in light of the Tua news that came out a few weeks back, you can't see him getting another head coaching opportunity. So he's just going to run that defense for years to come. And you got Kevin O'Connell as your head coach. Future looks bright in Minnesota. Exciting to see how this team develops as the year goes. Next game, we got the Eagles and the Saints. And what is new? Saquon goes crazy. Really, this game was almost at stalemate until Saquon broke that 65-yard touchdown run. And he has been worth every dime plus more that you paid him in the offseason. I mean, he looks, back to rookie, first 2-3 years, Saquon Barkley. Great addition by Howie Roseman, who is, you got to say, a top 3 GM in the NFL. Very savvy with making moves. Steal Saquon from their division rival, the Giants. Giants fans, you got to be sick. And he's really the reason you guys are 2-1 and not 1-2, or at least 0-3. The Saints putting up franchise record numbers in the first 2 weeks with 91 points through 2 games. Only put up 12 against an Eagles defense that had a lot of questions coming into this week. They led up the very crucial 4th down drive against the Falcons to lose the game. And you brought in Vic Fangio, paid him a shit ton of money. And so far you hadn't seen the production. And today against a team that was just an absolute buzzsaw over the first 2 weeks, you hold them. And you hold them hard. So, Saints, good effort. Wouldn't be worried. Eagles, this is a bigger win than it was for you if the Saints did. You needed this one. And you got it because it feels like Sirianni kind of coaching for his job at times. You know, you had the chance to take the lead earlier with a field goal, and they went for it on 4th and 3. They get stopped, and at that point, you're wondering, you're like, oh my gosh, is this going to become a thing where Sirianni gets let go if they lose a couple more games? So he buys himself more time, but there's still some question marks there because this team has the talent to win the Super Bowl. They're freaking loaded. You should be 3-0, and you should have you have the talent to win 12 to 14 games this year. Talent isn't everything, which is why he is under fire at times. So you got to see them continue to stack these wins and to become more dominant in them. Moving on, Chargers and Steelers. And Chargers got muddy in this game. But breaking news, the Steelers are muddier. The Steelers' ideal game is to drag you into the depths of a defensive battle and just slug it out with you. Because 9 out of 10 times, they're going to win that style of a matchup. They have playmakers all across their defensive squad with Minka, TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr. They're just stud loaded. Oh, incoming. And, this has kind of been the Steelers' identity over the past few years. They're just stacked on the defensive side of the ball, and that's how they've been able to win these, to maintain a winning record over the past few years under Mike Tomlin. I don't think I've ever been alive for a Steelers team that didn't have a good defense. You're starting to see Justin Fields come along a little bit, though. Granted, he doesn't have the numbers, that a top-tier QB has, but you're 3-0. He's making the plays when he needs to. He adds a dimension to your offense that you haven't had pretty much in my entire upbringing. And he's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. He looks great in a Steelers uniform as well, which that kind of matters. So, Steelers 3-0. You got to be stoked about how this season has unfolded so far. You've put yourself in a very good position. Teams are going to start taking you a little bit more seriously, but you got a defense that is serious enough, so you're good with it. For the Chargers, there's a funny stat line that popped up. You guys took Joe Alt with the 5th overall pick out of Notre Dame, an absolute beast of an offensive lineman. And the title to this was Control, Alt, Delete. And that's what he has done to pass rushers so far this season, manning the right tackle spot. Nobody's getting home against Joe Alt. And Jim Harbaugh said, we view our offensive linemen as skill positions. And they've built a freaking wall for Justin Herbert, who is a wall of a man himself. Tough loss at Pittsburgh. Still 2-1, and still a lot of great things that you're seeing from this team. They seem to have kicked the Chargers chargering, and they have a toughness to them that you haven't seen in a long time. That was your main hope that Jim Harbaugh would bring. So, look out for the Chargers and the Steelers. Both two very talented, well-coached teams. Broncos versus Bucks next. And for Bo, this is just in the nick of time. A lot of questions circling the first round pick out of Oregon. Did the Broncos reach? Is this too much for him? He was only a screen passer in college. He can't move the ball downfield. Well, I got news for you. Do what your quarterback is strong at. And Sean Payton did that today against a very solid Todd Bowles-led defense. Bo Nix just dipping and dunking all over the Buccaneers defense and led them to a 26-7 rout of a 2-0 Bucs team. So, just because he can throw short doesn't mean he doesn't have the arm to move the ball downfield, because there's some plays where you see where you're like, this guy can zip it. And not only can he zip it, but this guy can move. There was a play where he was rolling out to his right, and he had an incredible veteran awareness to him where he was about to send it, but he sensed the rusher chasing him down, and he tucked it, took a hit to his side, moved off of it, and scrambled for almost 20 yards. And all you can think during that play is, this guy, he has some next level awareness for being a rookie. So you saw a lot of things come together for Bo Nix today. I mean, talk about a gauntlet to start your career. You go against Seahawks. They got so much talent on their defense, and they have Mike McDonald now, who has led them to a 3-0 start. We'll touch on that later. But also then you face the Steelers, who we just talked about. And now you go up against the Bucs, That's 3 legit defenses that you've had to start your career with. Things are going to start to look pretty easy for Bo Nix after having those 3 defenses to start your career. For the Broncos, another thing, Vance Joseph, man, he earned his money today. Baker Mayfield was super hot going in. Pause. Vance Joseph, very good defensive coordinator. And you saw moments last year where that Broncos defense really kept them in games. And he's earning his paycheck right now. Last thing for the Bucs, I think Bucky Irving needs more touches. Feels like every time this guy gets the ball in his hands, he does something electric with it. They have Rachaad White in the backfield. That's their main starting running back, and he's very good. But now you kind of got a two-headed monster with Bucky Irving. 9 carries, 70 yards today. Has had a couple other really electric plays throughout the season. Rookie out of Oregon as well. I'd like to get him a little bit more involved in the game because, you got Godwin, who is your possession receiver over the middle. And then you got Mike Evans, who's your big-bodied, slower jump ball guy. Still got it, though. Now you add an electric, explosive running back out of the backfield to keep defenses honest. There's some pieces to like in Tampa Bay. With this one, it's kind of like the Chargers. You're not worried about it. You guys still have a solid squad. Especially helps you out that the Falcons and the Saints lose today. Keeps you even in the division. So, great game for the Broncos. Looking forward to seeing more of Bo Nix. Moving on to the Packers and the Titans. Packers win this game on a Malik Willis revenge tour. They drafted him. I think he was 3rd round pick out of Liberty a couple years ago. And the talk was he going to go in the 1st round? Fell all the way to the 3rd. Just a lot of rawness there. Titans gave up on him pretty early. Didn't seem like he had it. But Matt LaFleur, man, takes Malik Willis off of the waiver wire after the preseason ends, has to throw him into the second game. He has to start. Barely been with the team. And they're gone 2-0 with him. And he's looked good in the process. He has not been a hindrance to this team. And that just speaks volumes to Matt LaFleur. The circulating take right now is that Matt LaFleur doesn't get enough credit. Well, so far, he has shown that he deserves every bit of credit that is going to be given to him. Early in his career, it was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the reason Matt LaFleur looks so good. Then they trade Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love steps in. First half of the year, struggles. Second half of the year, lights out. They win a playoff game. They take it to the Niners, almost move on to the NFC Championship. They start the year, lose in Brazil while losing Jordan Love. 0-1. Oh, man. What are we going to do? Are we going to start this season 0-3, 0-4 while Jordan Love is out? Nope. Because Matt LaFleur is a master at offensive game planning, and clearly he knows what he's doing. You got to consider him a top 5 coach, and if he keeps this up, if they go on, they win, say, one more game, because now you've bought yourself more time to let Jordan Love get healthy, going up against the Vikings next week. Do you want to rush him into that game against a very good Vikings defense with a mean pass rush? You've bought yourself some time, and if this continues, say if they go 3-2 through the first 5 games of the year and they end up winning that division once Jordan Love comes back, you got to think that Matt LaFleur gets some votes for head coach of the year. One more thing on this game. I feel so bad for Will Levis. At one point, I feel no compassion for him because he puts mayo in his coffee, which I've decided I'm going to try just to see. And he has one of the funniest sponsorships in Hellman's that I think the league has ever seen. But man, he is allergic to making veteran type plays at the quarterback position. You could say he's still a rookie because he hasn't started that much. But man, he's already got 2 pick sixes this year. He has a horrible fumble from last week. He's just giving these teams points. And the Titans have been in positions to win a couple of these games. And his gaffes have been just, they've been gut-wrenching if you're a fan or a player or coach for the Titans. So hopefully he can put it together because I like Will Levis. You know, it's kind of trendy to think he's a cocky D-bag. But I don't know him, and none of us do. So, you know, you got to root for the success of guys. They all have families. You want to see them succeed. Just how much of a leash is he going to have moving forward when he keeps throwing games away like this? Next game, we got the Panthers and the Raiders, and I texted my buddy who's a lifelong Raiders fan, and I said, wow, dude, this is fucking embarrassing. Panthers, easily the worst team in the NFL. They just benched their first overall pick this week. They bring in Andy Dalton, who's as old as the oak tree in my backyard, and he lit you guys up like a Christmas tree. I mean, the Red Rocket was firing on all syllables and all cylinders and all calibers. I can't get my syllables onto the right caliber. My goodness. He looked good today. And, you know, kind of foreshadowing what we're going to talk about in our next game, having a good backup QB matters big time. You know, a big thing for NFL teams, you saw this, which is why the Patriots dynasty was so impressive. They won 6 Super Bowls over 20 years. They were good every year of those 20 years. Consistency matters so much in the NFL. Last week, you see the Raiders take down the Ravens, who were in that AFC Championship game last year, and then they come out and they get dominated by easily the worst team in the NFL with an aging backup quarterback. This one sucks if you're a Raiders fan. You should be 2-1. Now you're 1-2. Got no quarterback, no running back. You know, what the hell are we going to do now? So, good win for the Panthers. Happy for the Panthers fan. This one had to feel so good. Oh, man. I can only imagine. Because I was a Patriots fan last year. Every year as well. But last year specifically, and through this year, having a shitty offense, it sucks to watch. And you guys kind of had a shitty defense too. So, good win. Raiders, bad loss. Next game, Dolphins and Seahawks. Seahawks, man, they thump them 24-3. Mike McDonald's got this defense playing lights out. Granted, Dolphins don't know what the hell they're doing at quarterback. And this is kind of touching on what we just talked about with the Panthers. They had Andy Dalton in the waiting to take over Bryce Young's spot. And he comes out, throws for 300 plus and 3 tutties. Well, Dolphins, you got a ready-to-win team. Tua goes down with a terrible concussion. Still, prayers out to him. But you guys got Skylar Thompson as your backup. With a quarterback that is known to have an injury-prone history, even before the concussions. And this guy is the one that you're going to hand off the season to if he were to go down. And since it's happened, you guys have put up like 6 points of offense. I don't know what the hell you guys weren't doing, signing a decent quarterback to back up Tua, to not only help give him advice on the sidelines, but to freaking play if you need him to. Because there is some rumors that Tua might come back this year, but what's the point of coming back if you guys are going to be 1-7? The season's over at that point. If you could battle to be 3-4 or 4-3 or 4-4, then you come back and you're fighting for a wild card spot. At this point, you're fighting for not to be a top 5 overall pick in next year's draft with a ready-to-win now team that have a lot of contracts coming due in the near future. So it's just embarrassing construction of your team. And, hats off to them how they have constructed it. They've obviously done a good job of scouting talent, developing talent, and, conducting trades to bring in players like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey. But you guys biffed it at the most important position in NFL and American sports. You don't have a quarterback right now. And so for that, you can't expect to be winning games. Touching on the Seahawks before we move on to the next game, McDonald's got this team playing lights out. They get a gritty win over a feisty Patriots team last week in overtime. They dominated the Broncos in week 1, and then now they dominate the Dolphins in week 3 to move to 3-0 in a division where you got the Cardinals at 1-2. You got the Rams at 1-2. You got the Niners at 1-2. Season's looking real good so far for Seattle. Geno Smith looks really good. He's kind of captured that form he had 2 years ago when he said, "Everybody wrote me out, but I ain't right back." Still one of the coldest lines to ever be recorded. DK Metcalf is a freak of nature. I don't know how that man, he's the level of Shohei Ohtani. Like, are we sure that these people aren't aliens that just came to dominate American sports? DK seems like he's from another planet. Dude's a beast. Congrats, Seattle. 3-0. Looks good so far. Lions and Cardinals, a gritty match. Lions take the victory 20-13. And coming to the season, we all knew the Lions were one of the feistiest teams in the NFL. What we didn't know is what the Cardinals were going to be. And if you watch my NFC season preview video, you heard me talking about that this Cardinals team is going to be a feistier one of the bunch and going to be in a lot of these games. You get Kyler Murray back with a full offseason healthy. You draft MHJ. You got Scott Gannon as your head coach, which, he seems to have these guys ready to play every week. You barely lose to the Bills week 1. You mushroom stamped the Rams last week, 41-10. And then you barely lost a gritty match to the, defending NFC championship contenders in the Lions, who are coming off a tough loss against the Bucs, ready to play. So even though you're 1-2, you got to feel good about where your team's headed. Once you can stack some of these tough wins, that team, you start to believe a little bit more. You start to build the momentum. I'm excited. Kyler Murray, pound for pound, has got to be one of the top 5 most exciting and talented players in the NFL. Never have I seen a guy that is 5'9", can run around like a freaking rabbit, making these grown-ass men who are paid very handsomely, makes them look like they're part of the JV squad, and he can sling it with the best of them. So, exciting stuff. Another thing, we talked about Malik Neighbors earlier, second receiver off the board. Now we're talking about the first receiver off the board in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr. Man, first week, crazy quiet. Second week, goes bonkers. Third week, respectable. He looks good. Looks very good. Seems like he's gotten his NFL legs under him. That combination between Murray and Harrison, Murray and Marvin, that kind of giving me a little nostalgia going back to D-Hop and Kyler Murray. I like the look. Plus, side note, This game, the Lions in the blue and white and the Cardinals in the red and black, one of the most aesthetically pleasing matchups I've ever seen in my life. It was so easy on the eyes, perfect color combo. I don't know why, it just stuck out so nice to me. I wish I could rewatch it. Also, Detroit, before we move on, will you please leave Dan Campbell alone? I mean, the dude has done more for your city than all the mayors ever combined. The only person to probably do more for your city was freaking Henry Ford. And that's how y'all got your nickname. And now you're chasing him down on losses, and he's got to move in the middle of the week? Give me a break, guys. Show some class. This guy's your stud head coach. Show him some respect. He's going to lead you to the playoffs for a second year in a row. Give the man some space. Jeez. Next game, we got the Ravens and the Cowboys. And this game started off, the Cowboys look like over the past 7 quarters that not only did they not want anything to do with a football field, they had just stepped on one for the first time. They were getting crushed. The Ravens, 0-2, coming into this game, man, they came ready to play. They said, we can't go 0-3, not in the AFC, not in our division. We got to win this game. And they looked electric. Looks like they might have found their footing a little bit with how they want to run their offense. You know, obviously, Derrick Henry coming in, one of the greatest running backs of our generation, typically likes to be handed the ball off while the quarterback is under center, still finding his footing, running out of the shotgun. Lamar Jackson, they're still trying to figure out the dichotomy of, you know, how we're going to disperse the rock with all this talent between Likely and Andrews and Flowers and Henry and Lamar. I think they found the recipe. Get ahead and pound the rock. Derrick Henry, the ageless halfback from Alabama who just stiff arms people into oblivion. I don't know who got a slice of that pie today, but that man has a family, Derrick. You ain't got to be like that to him. I just want a Derrick Henry stiff arm compilation on my YouTube feed the second I get off of this. I hope the algorithm is listening. Cowboys. Man, y'all got no run game. You saw it today. Ravens are able to pound it, and you guys are not. And this was your biggest issue last year. You let Zeke walk for a few $1 million, and he was the best Patriots offensive player last year. He still got it. And this year, he looks like he's still got it. And last year, you had Tony Pollard, and you could have had a nice little 1-2 punch, a little thunder, a little lightning. And you were missing that identity in the playoffs, which is why you guys got fucking laughed out of your stadium in the playoffs. I can't tell what I feel of this Cowboys team. And that's kind of the issue over the past few years with the Cowboys. They look really good for 3 weeks. Then they have a game where you're like, was everything I was seeing a mirage? Then they look really good for 2 weeks. Then they have another horrible game. Then they have a tough loss. Then they have an easy win, then a good win. And it's like going back to the Raiders. Consistency. You can't have these ups and downs and expect us to take you seriously. You guys obviously have a good quarterback. The slander on Dak Prescott is ridiculous. Yes, he hasn't played good in the playoffs. But if we're talking about regular season, which we are right now, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And in the fourth quarter, he came alive. You guys storm back. You're within a third down stop of getting the ball back to go inevitably tie the game at the least because you guys have a kicker that is as automatic as my Nissan Frontier. But you couldn't get the stop. And that kind of comes back to the physicality point. Last year we saw it. You guys were a very physical defense. Now that identity seems to be missing. And a question I have is Out of these two teams, which 1 and 2 start is worse? And in the fashion of which they played today, I mean, you got to go 100% the Cowboys. You know, the Ravens, you have so much to like about this team. One, their track record, very good. John Harbaugh, elite coach. But you've also got a 2-time MVP winner in Lamar Jackson. You got a Hall of Fame running back in Derrick Henry. You got a young stud in Zay Flowers. You got a two-headed monster in Andrews and Likely that is similar to Gronk and Hernandez back in the day. And you got a lights-out defense with studs on every level. With the Cowboys, you have CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons. You know, one half of your salary cap right there. And, you know, 1/3 was missing today. And, you know, another part of that is a receiver who's only touching the ball on a good day 9 times a game. I'm not liking what I'm seeing from this Cowboys team. I sent a hilarious gaffe as well. I have to mention this. My sister was just mentioning how she didn't like Stephen A. Smith this week. And he had this hilarious short on YouTube where he slowly pans the camera over to his face and he just starts laughing, Joker-esque. One of the best unprompted videos I've ever sent anybody in my life. Just go check it out. Anyways, moving on. 49ers and Rams. Rams take this one, and if you're a Niners fan, this one has got to hurt, man. You guys shot yourself in both feet. One, you had a chance to go up 10 with a few minutes to go, and you missed the kick. Then the Rams tie the game back. You have a great position to go down and win the game with under 2 minutes to go. Brock Purdy throws a nice pass to Ronnie Hill, and it hits him right in his hands, and he drops it, and you guys end up having to punt it back to the Rams, who then go down the field and kick the game-winning field goal and lead to an electric locker room scene that we saw on Sunday Night Football. That squad was freaking happy, and why wouldn't you be? You just saved your season. You're about to go 0-3. There's really not much coming back from that, especially with all the injuries that they have. So huge, huge, huge win for the Rams. And so far, if you're the Niners, you know, you guys looked full form Monday night to start the season. Then you get upset by the Vikings, who we've come to see are not to be messed with. But then you are winning with a couple minutes to go against your division rival Rams, who you've had their number for the past few years, really since Shanahan took over, and you choked this game away. And a bigger underlying issue is you guys, nobody gets the injury bug worse than this team. You're without Debo. You're without Kittle. You're without CMC. Nick Bosa's banged up. And you had Ayuk sit out the whole training camp with contract negotiations. He finally gets his deal, and he has not looked the part so far. It's all fun and games when you're putting up 1,000-yard seasons and you're only getting $6 million because you're a first-round pick. Now you're getting paid $30 million. I'm rooting for him. But hopefully some of this game conditioning is starting to level itself out and he can start making a bigger difference. But so far, he's been very underwhelming. And that's a huge issue because you paid him a boatload of money and he's your only go-to guy right now. And he's been the only one that can prove that he can stay healthy throughout a season. You know, as good as Brock Purdy is, no quarterback is going to be elite without pieces around him. And you don't have pieces around him right now due to the injuries. So 1-2, not ideal not worried. Let's preface this whole rant about the Niners with I'm not worried about them. They're still the championship caliber team. They'll level out, but obviously 1-2, especially being the way they lost today, not ideal. Final game on the docket, we got the Falcons and the Chiefs Sunday night, and another great primetime game for the NFL. Falcons came this close to sealing it up with another last-second win, and Chiefs pull it out like they have every game so far this season. They're 3-0. Hey, listen, the only stat that ultimately matters is the W's and the L's, and they got all W's and no L's. So you can't really dock them too hard, but they have a little bit of that Eagles from last year feel to them, where they're in every game and they end up prevailing, but there seems to be this underlying issue that you can't put your finger on it, and you're wondering why this team with so much talent, obviously Mahomes, you got Rashee Rice, you got probably the best interior offensive line in the league, you got Xavier Worthy, who you drafted, you got a lights out defense, you probably got the best defensive coordinator in the league. How come you guys are barely winning these football games? This does add toughness to your teams because you got to play a full 60 minutes. Gives you the belief that you're going to win these close games and you don't mind playing in these close games. But you wonder why things haven't fully clicked. We're only in the third week. So yeah, obviously we're going to see them explode at some time. But it's been 2 years really that we've seen this Chiefs offense look like what we fell in love with. And to me, you saw the Eagles last year, same amount of talent, string off these wins to start 10-1, and then they completely collapse to end the season. I don't see that happening with the Chiefs. They're too well coached, but there's something under the surface that has yet to rid itself, and I'm not sure if it's Super Bowl fatigue where they're just trying to get through the regular season and they'll turn it on in the postseason like we saw last year, or if it's something bigger to yet be determined. Two more things, both on the Falcons side of the ball. We'll start with the lesser. Drake London, breakout year incoming. Dude looks like the first round pick that he was touted to be. I mean, absolute Adonis of a human being, 6'4", 230, can run, can jump, can juke, can catch. I mean, he looks like a stud. I'd expect him to get a hefty portion of the targets, as well as a nice little side piece, you could say Batman to Robin, in Darnell Mooney, your free agent acquisition from the Bears this offseason. Man, he looks good in that Falcons jersey, and my man can run. The dude looks good out there running routes. Very nice underneath acquisition. Hopefully you can get Kyle Pitts going a little bit more. You got a nice two-headed monster. Falcons, not worried. What I am worried about is why the hell you're running outside zone against a team that has stopped you on outside zone the whole game, and over the past years been very good at stopping outside zone. Why are you running that on 4th and a nut hair to keep the game alive? I thought it was an asinine call. Chris Collinsworth and Tirico were talking about, well, Kirk Cousins has his Achilles injury. You don't want to QB sneak him. Last time I checked, your Achilles has nothing to do with a freaking QB sneak. You know why the Patriots won for 20 straight years? Is because on 3rd and inches and 4th and inches, Tom Brady snuck it for another first down. And then we'd go and score. I don't know why. If anything, just direct snap it. Everybody knows you're running the ball. So just direct snap it to your running back and let him plunge up the middle. That's where the strength of your team is anyways. Don't run it outside where your left tackle was already dinged up earlier in the game and you don't really have a really good pass blocking group with, Kyle Pitts is a finesse pass catcher. Darnell Movie, finesse route runner. I don't understand the call to run it outside. And that's really kind of full circle moment with the Falcons. Doesn't seem like they know what they're doing at times. They still fought hard. Don't want to dump on them too hard. But this game was in your grasp 2 times. The refs miss a blatant pass interference call in the end zone, which would have put you up because you probably would have scored a touchdown. And then they gift you 3 penalties on the final drive. Seemed like they were kind of making up for it. It's like when an umpire calls a ball that was clearly a strike and he calls a strike a ball, kind of try to help you out a little bit. This game was yours for the taking. And the Chiefs can get away with it. They have the championship pedigree to let these games go into the final seconds. You guys don't have that pedigree. You got to start pulling away. You got the talent. I mean, you got a 2-headed monster in your safety position with Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates that is the best in the league. I mean, those 2 guys are ball hawks if I've ever seen them. You got to start pulling away some of these games. I expect they will. It seems like they're starting to really feel it as a group. Tough loss, though. That's all the game recaps. Just a couple things to watch out for in tomorrow's Monday night doubleheader. Bills and Jags. Jags need a win. Capital N, capital E. They need a win. If not, count them out. Also, can the Bills build on the first 2 games of the season? A lot of question marks. Kind of a lot of talk. Are the Dolphins going to overtake them so far? Well, they come out, win a good game against a feisty Cardinals team, and then they just slaughtered the Dolphins, Big Brother style. Can they build on that? Get a nice Monday night victory, go into the Sunday night game against the Ravens 3-0? That'd be huge. Bengals and Commanders. Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow. You had me at hello. That is the title for this game, pretty much. Love Joe Burrow. Excited about Jaden Daniels. Looked really efficient last week. Obviously can run really well, but you win passing the ball. Was making good decisions. Still doesn't have his first career touchdown pass. Expect him to get it tomorrow. With the Bengals, Joe Burrow's great. Jamar Chase is great. They haven't been great this year so far. I want to see them hit. I want to have one of those vintage games where Jamar gets 8 catches, $150. Joe Burrow 350, 3 tutties. If you're a Bengals fan, that's what you want to see. You want to see that connection click. Then you'll feel really good about your season, even though you stunk it up against the Patriots week 1. You win this game, you're 2-1, looking real good. So that's it for tonight, guys. Hope you enjoyed the slate of games today on Sunday. Week 3 is almost in the books. Before we know it, it'll be week 13. And then we'll be talking about the playoff games. Crazy how fast this season can move. Excited to get back on here tomorrow night to talk about the Monday night doubleheader. Hope you guys have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace out.